Hey guys, Northern Cincy Rider here. Today we're going to do an install of a Black Dog Ultimate skid plate on a 2019 F850 GSA. From a perspective of why I picked this specific skid plate, to be honest, the abilities of this skid plate to protect my bike is probably better than any abuse I would put it through based on my riding history. However, when I compared it to some of the other skid plates I was looking at, it was only about $25 more, or in some cases cheaper, and I'd rather go with something that's a little bit better. It's better to have something that's better than you need it versus not as good. Hopefully someday I'll get to the point where I'm riding to the level that I'll actually be using this to its full extent. So here we have the skid plate as well as the mounting bracket, as well as the hardware that you'll be using to install it. The skid plate itself weighs 10 pounds, 2.7 ounces. The installation is going to be fairly simple. Just need a 5mm Allen socket, a T30 Torx bit, and a 13mm socket. Besides that, you'll want to do some thread locker, as well as in the end you're going to torque it to 14 foot-pounds. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the old skid plate. So the first step is to remove the fairly crappy skid plate that's on there now. You're going to just remove the 4 bolts here, 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 and here. Alright, so we got all the 4 screws out. We'll go ahead and take this out. And one thing we'll need to do is remove this front bracket. The back bracket here will stay the same. And what I'll probably also do is just clean up a little bit under here before we put the new bracket on. So next step is to go ahead and remove the front bracket. And that came off fairly easily. Or came loose fairly easily. All right, so the front bracket is gone, and I know this is going to get dirty again, but for the sake of just making me happy, I will put a little degreaser on a rag and just wipe down this area underneath while I have it open. All right, next step is to get ready to put the bracket on for the Black Dog skid plate. So the first step is to prepare the installation plate. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these U-nuts with the mounting threads facing upward, and we're going to place them at these 4 points here and get ready to install it. As you install these and you push them on, they'll actually clip right into place like that. So the next thing we want to do is we have these white plastic bushings that we're going to clip on either side of the center stand. These go on by pulling them apart. They have a slit in them, and you're going to orient that slit all the way to the back, towards the back of the bike. The other thing is we want to remove these U-bolts here, or these U-nuts rather, from the back bracket, but we will keep the existing back bracket and not replace it. Alright, so there's one. There's the other. So now we're going to take the last two supplied U-nuts and we're going to replace them on the back bracket with the threaded side facing up. Fairly straightforward. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is put some thread locker on the bolts that came with it and go ahead and install the skid plate bracket. Okay, so the first step is going to be to connect these rounded sections here, put them over the white plastic cups that were installed over here, and then go ahead and raise this into place. We're going to take the two longer bolts that were supplied with Loctite on them, and we're going to go ahead and screw those in to hold the back plate in place. Okay, so one thing I found that was helpful as I started trying to put on the base is that these U-nuts weren't aligned completely. So what I would suggest is get the U-bolts in, make sure that these bolts screw in easily, and then you'll know everything's aligned properly to go ahead and install the skid plate. So now that I know the U-nuts are aligned correctly, let's try this again, a little bit easier. Get the dog hair off of my bolt. And this screws in much more easily if I can hold on to it. Okay, so I did unfortunately have a little bit of an issue getting this on, and what the issue was the white bushing on this side was a little bit too wide to fit around between the center stand and the edge. So it's pretty simple to fix. I just had to rub it on some sandpaper a little bit on the edge, maybe a 400 grit, and that narrowed it down just enough to fit in there. And now the back side is on, and now I just need to connect the last two bolts to the front and the mounting bracket will be installed. All right, and the last step is going to be to install the last two bolts into these two areas, and these are not where the original bracket was mounted, which was up further. Now, because of how far up these are, I did find that it was easier to switch to a normal Allen wrench to get those started, simply because of having to reach up so high. All right, so now we are ready to torque this down to 14 foot-pounds. And we will be done with the initial installation of the bracket. And I will say that a torque wrench is my best friend because I always tend to want to over tighten things. All right. And the last one. Okay, everything's torqued down and the base plate is complete. Obviously there is still a big hole in the center so you can get to the oil drain. Double check that these are good to go, and we will now be ready to install the actual skid plate. The skid plate uses these flathead bolts, and they're all the same size, so there's no reason to worry as to where you'll install that in the front or the back. All right, so there it is. Everything was very easy to install. The second part was much easier than the first. I think they do that on purpose just to make it easy to take on and off for any maintenance, especially oil changes. One thing I will say is, again, I think this plate is much stronger than what I need at the moment. However, the price was the same as other plates, and at some point I hope to put it through its paces and ride in areas where it would actually do a lot of good. Another thing that was interesting is about a week ago I went riding through some really tall dead grass, and my pipes were cutting the grass off and pulling them into the side here, and it smelled pretty much like something was on fire because the grass was going up into the pipes and burning. So I have to think that something like this will keep things from getting stuck as I ride through them. So not only will it help with rocks, but also just in general keeping the other side of this a little bit cleaner. Who knows, as massive as this thing is, even if I go through any deep water crossings, it might even act like a water ski. Maybe I'll just go really fast and this thing will just keep me at plane right over the water crossing. Who knows? But anyway, only thing left to do now is to torque these to 14 foot-pounds, and we're good to go. And there it is, the final installation. Very great coverage up here. I like that it comes out right here a little bit farther. Right in here is where I was catching that grass when I was going through the grass field, and then it was burning in there and smelling like it was on fire. So I think this will definitely help keep things from getting pulled up inside of here. Here's the other side.